Good morning, this is Greg Medore with the Oily Crafter. My wife Judy is behind the camera running the camera today. We hope you enjoy the video that we're going to do today. If you like the video, please like and subscribe our channel and hit the bell to be notified of new upcoming videos. Today's project is a portable battery box. This box has been inspired by a lot of videos I've seen on YouTube. Specifically, JDS Outdoors did one that was very inspiring to me. However, what's a little bit different about our project today is this one, it's not only a portable battery box that includes being able to recharge cell phone, tablets, things like that externally, light, etc. This one I'm also going to add a ham radio to as well. So again, thank you for watching and let's get started. So let's gather the tools that we're going to need for this particular job. So here I've got a cordless drill. I've also got a nice pair of wire cutters. I've got a pair of wire strippers, wire crimpers, got a hole saw, I've got a spade bit. I used a set of digital calipers. I've also got a set of needle nose pliers here. So I think those are primarily the tools that I'm going to need. There may be another one here that I need, and I'll mention it as we go along. So let's gather the supplies we'll need for this particular build. We have a 50 caliber ammo box. We picked that up at Harbor Freight. We have a LiFePo rechargeable battery. I believe this one is a 16 amp hour battery. We have a combination unit here that is USB, two USB plugs, a 12 volt cigarette lighter adapter, and then also has a power switch built into it. We have a solar charge regulator that we can use to apply to this build to allow us to be able to recharge via solar panel. I've got a couple of sets of banana jacks here. This is a connector for a ham radio antenna that we're going to mount on the box. We've got a couple of rocker switches. I've got some 14 gauge wire here that we're going to use for our builds. I've got a fuse box here that takes the blade fuses. I'm actually going to use this to replace all those inline glass fuses that have a really hard time seeing what amperage those are. So I'll use a magnifying glass later to look that up and then put the appropriate set of blade fuses in my fuse box. Then I've got some screws, washers, and nuts here as one way to attach some of these plates to the box. Another way you can also do that is you can use a hand riveter. So I've got one of those handy in case I decide to go that route. And then in addition to that, I've also got an assortment of insulated wire electrical connectors, spade bits, rings, etc. Just a wide assortment of those. I've got the, this is the pigtail that's needed for the solar connector. That would actually charge to the solar regulator. And then this would be mounted to the outside of the box. This solar panel would plug into this to recharge the battery. Got a couple of LED lights here that will wire in on this as well to provide light. And then last but not least, I've got this is a 10 watt ham radio. It's a Lexan VV898, little 10 watt radio with the mounting bracket, and we will mount that inside the box there and connect it to this so that we can have the antenna. We'll have the antenna mounted outside the box like so. So that's it. So one of the things I forgot to mention is somebody's probably wondering why do I need digital calipers? Well, I need digital calipers to determine what the diameter of the hole is that I need to for this particular plate, for the USB port, 12 volt cigarette lighter adapter, and the rocker switch. So I actually use the digital calipers to measure the diameter here, and then I recorded that diameter. So that's how I came up with 1 1/8 inches. Then I also use the digital calipers to measure the diameter of the bolt here on the LED lights, and it turns out that's 3/8 of an inch. So that's how I came up with the hole saw diameter and the spade bit diameter. Okay, so I'm going to start with this switch assembly here, and you notice that one thing I also forgot to mention is this actually has a voltmeter right in here in between the USB ports as well. So this had a wiring harness on the back of it, both a the negative lead and the positive with an inline fuse. Well, in order to mount this into my box here, what I need to do is I had to pull that wiring harness off and then just unscrew these nuts. So I did that on all three of those, and then these just pop out. Now, one of the things you can do, just kind of depends on what kind of look you're going for, is you could actually just drill the holes in there, and then you wouldn't have to worry about what I'm getting ready to show you. But I elected to, I want to have that panel on there to give a little bit cleaner look. So what I did was I measured on the back side of this lid. I'm actually going to mount this here, and these barrels are going to come through the plastic here. Now, obviously, what's going to happen is you can see this ring right here. This ring isn't going to fit through there, so I'm going to have to notch this out so that this ring will fit. I don't want to notch it on this side because that's exposed to the elements, so I'll notch it on the inside so that it will fit. Either that, or I will grind one of those nubs down on that ring, lock ring there. So what I decided to do was I'm going to take this plate and I'm going to mount it right here on the edge. And then what I did was I took a ruler, because I'm kind of OCD about this, and I said, okay, I'm going to measure it to the edge of this. And that's about 1 1/16 and about 1 1/16 here. So I get it just about centered about as well as I can. Now, my wife had a really good idea about how do I get this thing, how do I make sure that I'm cutting the hole in the right place, right? Well, this drill bit, if you can see, with this thing pulled back as far as it can, that drill, that hole saw, that's perfect for there. However, the drill, I can't really tell that that's really well centered right there because it's not engaged in the threads. So what I decided I'm going to do, and I marked little light pencil marks here on top of this box, is I'm going to move that over. Move that over. And it's important that you don't let that plate move while you're doing this. Move that over, and you can see I've got 3 different sets of marks there for the drill bit. Okay, so what I did was Judy suggested that I try turning this upside down so I make sure, because these absolutely have to be lined up, because if they're not lined up, then I wasted an ammo box. So I put it in there, drew my, used the pencil to make a mark around the inside of this thing here. Pull that out. So you can see now, I'll pull this off of there. You can see now I've got holes on there. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this hole saw all right. So don't forget the safety glasses. Yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing it without, I'm gonna have to put my glasses back on. There we go. Alright, so I got my 3 holes drilled. I will use an X-Acto knife to help clean up those edges. So we're using an X-Acto knife here, and we're just going to come in here and we're going to clean up the edges on this where I use the hole saw to cut through the top of the toolbox. So I ran into a bit of an issue with regard to, I got my holes drilled here in my lid, and I went to clean these, clean these out with the X-Acto knife. Even tried using a Dremel a little bit to do that. What I found is that these rings right here, they don't fit in between these rails. So what I did was I started by cutting a hole, kind of a slot right here, for those rings to fit up inside of there, kind of like that right there. The problem is that when I try to screw this in from the other side, it doesn't want to, it keeps hitting this piece right here. So I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to have to cut this piece out here altogether. So I've taken a black Sharpie here, and I've marked the lines where I need to cut it. So I'm going to take this Ryobi Dremel with this cutting wheel right here. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to cut out my slot right here in the inside of that lid. Okay, so I cut this piece out of here on the inner side of the lid. Makes it a whole lot easier than trying to cut the slots and stuff. So basically what I've done is I put my 12 volt cigarette lighter adapter. I put my USB port and the voltmeter in here in the middle, and I put my switch here on the other end. I changed the order up a little bit because I wanted the voltmeter in the center, just from aesthetics perspective. So basically just poke those through from the other side. You've got to hold it underneath as you're spinning that nut down there. And you want to tighten them down so that they don't, so that they're not loose and flopping around. This one looks like I might have to trim this one up just a little bit because this is still kind of in the way. So I decided to go with rivets to hold this plate in place. I'm going to use a 3/16 rivet. So I'm just drilling the hole down through the top of this. There you go. Okay, so the way the rivet gun works is I push this down inside of the hole that I just drilled, and then I'm going to squeeze this handle together. Something didn't work right. Now let's see if that, yeah, it hasn't, it's not a long enough rivet. Okay, so getting ready to put the rivets in to hold this plate down in place. And what I found out was the rivets that I had before this was the rivet I was trying to use before. Had to go to the store and buy the longer rivet, because this rivet, even when you squeeze it all, put it in place and try to squeeze it and put it into place, it's not long enough for the job. Kind of like having a screw that's long enough to go through the material. So I put the rivet down in place, and then I'm going to squeeze this handle in. You hear that click. And it's not chopping off the nail, so that rod there that it uses to spring it out. You hear the click, but it's not cutting it off. So here's what that rivet, what it looks like on the back side right here. And here's a couple of the others that I've squeezed a couple of times. So I'm fairly new to rivets, so maybe I don't understand how the rivet part here is supposed to work. So now that I've got my voltmeter, USB ports, 12 volt, and that switch installed, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install the bracket for the ham radio here. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some rivets, and I attached this to the radio, put it inside to make sure it was about where I wanted it. Then I brought it out here and made a mark on there. So now I'm going to use some rivets. So these are 3/16 rivets. I'm going to use a 3/16 drill bit to drill the holes. Okay, so I changed my mind. Instead of doing rivets, I decided to do machine screws in here. These are number 832s, 1/2 inch. Took 4 hands to get this, to put this together. And the reason is you see how much room I got to work with down here. I had to put a washer and a nut on both sides. So in order to put that in there, of course, you got to hold it from the outside and do it from the inside. But managed to get it in there the way I want it, so we're good to go on to the next step. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to put my antenna mount down in the top of the box. So I've got my digital calipers out. I need to see what the diameter is of the hole that I need to drill. 0.602. Yeah. 0.602 inches. So we decided for this antenna connector that I need a 5/8 inch spade bit to drill and be able to mount that through the lid there. So I'm gonna So as you can see, my mounting bracket, I've got my main hole drilled and cleaned up here. So now what I did was I put this in here and I used a black Sharpie to mark my holes. So I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to drill the holes here. Hold that in place.
Alrighty, we're trying to get this rivet on.
Yeah.
It's giving us fits.
It is.
Got the first two in with no problem. Actually got the tool to break off the top like it's supposed to.
There we go.
Interesting. Let's see here.
There you go.
Alrighty, so let's see if we can get this next one in. Four times the charm. There we go.
Okay, so now I'm going to install a toggle switch here for the radio that I just put inside there. So I've got one of these switches here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my digital calipers again to measure the diameter hole that I need to cut in there, and it looks like it's about 3/4 is what I'm looking at here on the calipers. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch bit here, and we will cut a hole in that. So I'm actually going to put it right here in the middle. I put an X on there, but I'm going to come over here and make sure. Okay, yeah, I got it. That's where I want my switch. Okay, so I'll use an X-Acto knife to clean that up, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so I'm going to install a banana jacks now. What I did was I took the plates and stuff off of there so I could measure the diameter of these. The diameter of those is 0.18 inches, so right at 3/16 drill bit. So what I did was I took took that bottom plate off, put it on here. I used a black Sharpie marker to mark my 2 holes, and I'm going to drill my holes for the banana plugs. Okay, so I have got all my different banana jacks and my switches. I drilled another 3/4 inch hole. This will be my switch for my banana jacks. I drilled a 3/4 inch hole up here. This will be for my master power. This one is my power switch, will be for my ham radio inside here. And then this assembly already has a switch for the voltmeter, USB plugs, and the 12 volt cigarette lighter adapter. So I've got my, again, 12 volt, 16 amp hour LiFePO rechargeable battery. This is considered a lithium ion battery as opposed to your traditional lead acid battery. It's a fraction of the weight. So that battery will actually sit down inside the box down here. So I'm going to have to make an assembly. As you can see, it's a little bit too wide to go this way. And so I'll have to make an assembly to kind of help hold this into place down here. But you can see we're coming along nicely. Next thing we'll be doing is we'll be working on some wiring. Okay, so almost forgot, I wanted to add the LED lights here on the end down here. And so as you can see, I've already drilled the holes. I used the calipers to measure the diameter of that, and it turned out that was 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to put 2 of these in here. So it's just as simple as feeding that through there, and then it's got a nut right here. Take that nut, bring it down the wire, feed the threads through the hole. And then tighten just put that nut on there to hold that thing in place. So now rinse and repeat for the second one. So I added the LED lights here on the end and realized that I needed to add a switch here. So I drilled a 3/4 inch hole for one of these switches, installed the switch there. Okay, so the next step is I want to open up this lid, and I'm going to install this fuse block in place right here. So now you can notice that it doesn't set level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of center this right here in this handle, and then I'm going to make a mark here on either side, and I'm going to trim this down to where these are flush, so that this will literally lay right in here against that. And then I'm going to use this Ryobi Dremel tool here to cut that down. You could also use the X-Acto knife, but to do the same thing, but I'm going to use that Dremel tool. So. So I've got my cutouts here in my lid. The Dremel made short work of it. Got my fuse block. I'm going to set my fuse block in here. I'm going to use my pencil here, and I'm just going to poke through the hole here to mark my two dots here on the inside of that lid. I've got my two dots. I'm going to use a number 6 screw to go through there, and I'm going to use a this 9/64 bit to drill the hole. Yeah, that's perfect. I need a screwdriver. Yeah, that'll work fine. I'm gonna have to have some kind of a wrench to hold that on there. Yeah. So now that we've got our box assembled and our fuse box assembled to the box here, we're ready to start doing wire. In this particular case, I have already had some spools of 14 gauge wire. You probably use 16. I'm sure that'd be fine. I just happen to have this on hand. What we're going to do, of course, is we're going to measure red from our battery to our master switch in right here. So you would literally pull that out, pull that across there, measure, and then give yourself a little extra. Now, what I want to show you on this switch here is this bottom one is gold. This is a negative. The top one is positive power in. The middle one is positive power out. So we'll go negative here to our battery, positive here from our battery to our master switch. From our master switch, we'll go to our positive out to our fuse box right here, our positive lead here. And then our individual sources, they will plug into the different fuse points here on the fuse panel. So first thing you're going to want is you're going to want a good quality wire cutters. What I can tell you, they come in a number of manufacturers, etc. You could have some really small ones. You could have some bigger ones that have a comfortable grip. I'd say whatever your personal preference is, whatever fits your hand the best. You're also going to need something. This will can actually cut the wire cutter, very cheap and inexpensive. Cut the wire stripper and crimper tool. What I can tell you is that I've used this for a number of years, and I've always fight with on the wire stripper, pulling some of the inner wire out when you go to strip the wire. I recently bought a pair of these. These are wire strippers. They work very well. The way this works is they've got a gripper on this side and then a cutter right here. So literally you just put your wire in here, squeeze, and as you can see, it just easily stripped that wire back for you, just as clean as could be. So I definitely recommend buying a pair of those. I will give you a link to some of the tools that I used on this in the comments below the video. And then this is a ratcheting wire crimper. So that's when you strip the wire back and you take your wire here and you put your wire on here. Then you're gonna, based upon the color, you got red, blue, and yellow. You use those for different size wires. In this case, this is 14 gauge, so I would use blue. I put the blue on there, and then I would use the blue in here, put it inside of there, and then I would squeeze it down, and it will give me a perfect crimp on that wire. Okay, so again, on the red, we're going to pull this out over here by the battery, and then we're going to bring it over here to this master switch, just kind of measured inside the box. Pull that out, and then I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra, cut that off. I'm going to use the better improved wire cutters. Again, I'm just going to put that inside of there, squeeze, and there's your good cut right there. Your good wire strip, sorry. Oops. There you go. And then we're going to take the, in this case I need the blue, because this is 14 gauge wire. I want to twist it just a bit. Put that on there. Just line that up with your tool there. Squeeze it all the way in. We'll release. Give that a tug. Make sure that's on there good. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And this is just an assortment of wire connectors that I bought off of Amazon. I need a good wide assortment of those to be able to do that. Again, these I've used this other type of wire crimper for a long time, and by the time I get done doing a project, my hand always hurts. So having this ratcheting type of tool here to do this is going to be amazing. Yep. Sorry, just getting a little bit better used to doing these. We've been doing some other woodworking projects, and so I'm a little rusty on my skills here on doing these. That ratcheting thing, there we go. Kind of got stuck open there. You always give a tug on it to make sure it's good and tight. And then in this case, we're going to hook that up to the positive battery. I'm going to go ahead and hook up this end here. And I will hook up the positive to the battery here and later on. All right, so now we're going to measure the negative here. And again, we're going to run it from the battery terminal over here. We're going to run it over here, and it needs to come to, let's see, it needs to come to right here on this master switch. And then we are going to, from there, we'll have to branch off and come over here to the negative right here. So we're going to run to right here, and then we're going to give it a little bit of extra. Get the wire stripper out. Again, it's got a gripper and then a cutter right there. So you just kind of have to estimate how much wire you want to have stripped. just like that. Then you twist it. Now on one end, I need it for, I need to get another wire, because that other wire is going to come from right here on the switch, and it's going to come over here to the negative here. So again, give myself a little bit of extra, and we're going to do the same thing here. Strip that, and twist this, twist these two together, and with those two, I'm going to probably need one of these yellow ones, because that's two thicker wires, so I'm going to use a yellow one of those. Again, I'm going to use my ratcheting crimper, put the yellow in there together. Just squeeze it down, ratchets, and then you always tug on it to make sure it's good and solid. This one I'm going to need one of these spade connectors on there. Again, I'll use the blue right here. Nice thing about this ratcheting one is it does all the work for you. Tug on it to make sure it's tight. Grab one more of those blue connectors here. If I can get it out of the container. Twist my wire. Put that connector on there. And it fell off. Squeeze that down, tug on it to make sure it's tight, and then from there we're going to this will go over here to the negative. And the way this one works is this will go right here onto the negative on the master switch, and then it will provide -2, actually that needs to go underneath. So you're going to see me route that underneath there. Just a little wire management there. Then we're going to take this off. This is our master ground here for our entire fuse panel. So as you could see here, I've been doing a lot of wiring here. Again, my main feed from my battery is going to come into my master switch and then come to the master positive here. Then I'm going to have positives going out to things like my LED lights, to my 12 volt lighter plug, the USB and the voltmeter, go off to these banana jacks, and then it's also going to come off to this ham radio switch here as well. All my negatives are tying into my negative bus bar. The negative from the battery comes in here, and then I've got negatives that go off to my LED lights. They go off to, again, the cigarette lighter plug and the USB ports, as well as going off to my banana jacks. What I did was here on the ham radio kit is I needed I wanted a cord that fit the cord that's hardwired into the back of the ham radio. So what I did was I took one of these cords that has this plastic connector on it. Now I can't get it out of there. Has a plastic connector on it, and then it's hardwired to the cigarette lighter plug like you would normally use in an automobile. Well, I don't need that plug, although I guess I could have plugged it in the front. I wanted to be able to run it with the basically with the lid closed. So plug that in here. I'm gonna feed this down through my box here, because this is power that's going to go back out to the radio. I'm going to hardwire it into my switch here. and I will have power coming from this power box here, the fuse box, out to this switch. So again, you can see the jumper wires here. Just tried to make that as clean as I could, and I can use some zip ties here a little bit later. Right now I'm just trying to get everything wired up the best I can. So after all the wiring that we've done here on this, we're actually we've got the fuse box covered. I put different size fuses into the system. So for example, for the ham radio, I put a 7.5 amp fuse in there. I put a, let's see, what size fuse did I put in here for these different things? Let's see here. I did a 3 amp fuse for these LEDs here on the end. I did a 10 amp fuse for the 12 volt cigarette lighter plug and the USB ports. That's the inline fuse that it had in there when I got the thing, and I took the inline glass fuse out. I've got the banana jacks here, and for the banana jacks I did a 5 amp fuse for them. For the ham radio I did a 7.5 amp fuse in there. So I put this cover on here for the fuse block, just to try and prevent anything from getting anything from you know, just kind of protect it. So now for the moment of truth. So I've got my master power switch up here. I'm going to turn on my master power switch. So there's my master power switch. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, this should be the banana post, or sorry, this would be the LED lights here on the end. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to label my switches. This is a banana post. You can see I've rigged up this light here up to the banana post just to show you I've got light here. Here's my other one for the, look, that was for the ham radio. Again, I'm going to have to label all these switches here. This is for the LED lights here on the end. Then I've got the master switch here for the, you'll have to kind of raise that up. This is for the USB ports, the voltmeter, as well as the 12 volt cigarette lighter plug. You can see we've got 13.3 volts. I brought this cord out here because I wanted to show you. Let's see if I can. It's not letting me log in. There we go. So I'm going to plug in the plug there. You can see now it shows up as a green charging symbol right up here in the corner. So my USB ports are working fine. This is my ham radio switch here. I've turned my ham radio switch on. You can see that the ham radio in there, ham radio is powered on and running. I've got a short jumper wire PL259 connector that connects on the back of the radio, connects up here to this port right here, this antenna port, because at the end of the day I want to be able to run this with the lid closed. I've got a short high gain antenna here on the on this antenna port here, and then of course I've got my microphone out here. I will have to I plan on drilling a hole right here in the case, and then I'll use a rubber plug to run this cable through so I can literally close the lid down and use that ham radio with the lid closed. So today we're going to put some finishing touches on the box. So had to wait for my antenna to come in. This antenna folds out to, I think it's 29.5 inches long. 2 meter 70 centimeter ham radio antenna, has a 3 dB gain. I'll use that to be able to put here on my antenna jack right here. The nice thing about this one is, as you can see, is it also folds over and will fit inside the box for when I'm carrying it. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to be able to leave this closed and operate the ham radio. I can do that from keypad on the microphone, but in order to do that I need to drill a hole for this plug to be able to go through there. Now the problem is, if I drill a hole big enough for that plug to go through, then rain's going to get in the box. So Had to order some grommets. Had to wait for the rubber grommets to come in. So what I did was I picked a grommet that is big enough for that plug to go through. And so on that one, I'm actually going to use a 5/8 inch spade bit to drill a hole in the top of the box. And then I will use a drill bit to cut out the same diameter as the microphone cord. I'll drill a hole in here, and then I'm going to cut a slit in this to put it in here. I'll run this cable through there, and then I will I'll be able to operate the radio from, with the box all closed up. So that's going to be our next step. Yeah, just checking to make sure that what I'm doing here on the other side of this lid here. Then I'm going to cut a slot through here. There you go. So how that'll work is that can now go through there like that and still maintain most of the water resistance on this right here. I appear to have miscalculated on my boot there. That'll work. Yeah, we'll do it that way.
And like that, we fixed. Didn't realize this would come off.
Yeah. Right, so now this will come over here like so. So that will plug in, and then this piece right here, we just take this and then we'll fit that rubber grommet down inside of there. So that, yeah, there we go. Yeah, it didn't want that cable in there. It's not quite in the groove, I don't think. I also wanted to point out that I used my label maker to label the different switches, so I wouldn't have to try and remember or guess what they were. So just use label maker, label the master switch. This one's for the LED lights out here on the end, the one for the ham radio, and then also one for these banana jacks or these posts right here. So added that label on there. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this build. One of the things I do want to point out that I did not mention in the earlier video is that I took some silicone adhesive sealant and I sealed around this PL 259 jack that I put in here, SO 239 actually, sorry. I also put it around the screws that I'm using to hold the fuse block in and the screws that I'm using to hold the ham radio in place in. I wanted those to be about as sealed as I could get them to be sealed. So I will put in a link into the description below of all the different products that I got and used on this particular build. But again, overall, I'm pretty happy with how this build turned out. So I'm looking forward to in the next video, I plan on adding in the solar charger capability so that you can use a solar panel to be able to charge this battery inside this unit. So this is Greg Medora with the Oily Crafter. I want to thank you for watching us today, and if you liked the content, please like and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to hit that bell to be notified of any new videos. Thank you so much.